Hey guys, it's TheWaggishAmerican here, bringing you another model build. And today I'm going to be building Tamiya's 1/48 scale Supermarine Spitfire Mk.Vb. Unlike most builds, I began this project with the wings. I randomly scribbled pre-shading on the floor of the fuselage, trying to make sure that it stayed fairly dark. It was then painted with a custom mix of XF71, darkened with a few drops of deep green. After a coat of primer had dried, I began pre-shading the fuselage ribbing. This is done much in the same way as panel line pre-shading, though the width of the spray is a bit thicker than usual since it is more heavily shadowed than an exterior surface. All interior parts were then painted with several thin coats of that same custom green mix. I then began painting smaller details in the cockpit, beginning with the cockpit door. The crowbar was painted red and the ends painted silver. I painted the seat with Vallejo Hull Red, which is reasonably similar in appearance to the real aircraft's worn Bakelite. I used Vallejo silver and a fine brush to paint the oxygen cylinders. I wish I had done this before installing, as it was quite difficult to get in between the cylinders and the wall. A large brush and Vallejo light gray were used to dry brush throughout the cockpit. After installing the seat, I added shoulder harnesses out of Tamiya tape. I didn't show it in the video, but I also later extended this through the rear fuselage past that bulkhead. After a coat of Vallejo Gloss Clear, I applied Tamiya Panelline Accent Color Black to the whole area. Following 2 Vallejo matte coats, with the cockpit almost totally complete, I assembled the fuselage halves. With the cockpit totally finished, the completed fuselage was mated to the wing assembly. After a coat of primer had been dried and sanded, I began pre-shading the aircraft. On the bottom side, which would have taken less weathering from rain and sun, I stuck with the simple and quick panel line pre-shade. On the upper surface, I painted the whole model flat black before marbling with white. The underside was painted with several coats of thinned and slightly lightened XF83. I added a few more drops of white to the paint cup, along with some extra thinner, and sprayed lightly on the center of the panels. I applied this a little bit too heavily, so I then thinned it some more and misted it over the whole underside. This helped lighten up the whole underside, which I think I originally made a little bit too dark, and helped with the pre-shaded effect. After masking, I painted the entire upper surface with thinned XF82. I masked off the sea gray and sprayed black back over the exposed portions. I then mottled the surface with white and sprayed several thin coats of XF81. After a gloss clear coat, microset and microsol were used to apply the decals. Tamiya's decals were bizarre this time for several reasons. Firstly, rondelles were provided as a white decal and a separate translucent decal for the actual color. The other thing is they actually fit fairly well. They went into the panel lines without too much fuss, which is very unusual for Tamiya decals. So maybe there is something to this two-part decal thing that they decided to try. The decals were sealed with another gloss clear coat, and Flory Model's Dark Earth wash was used to accentuate the panel lines. After an initial flat coat, small dots of white, gray, green, and blue were applied to the surface and streaked mostly away with a damp brush filled with thinner. A sponge dipped in silver paint and dabbed on a napkin was used to chip the leading sections of the airframe and propellers. The windscreen was attached with microcrystal clear. The same thing was used to mount the mirror on top. The canopy was attached in the open position with future floor polish applied with a brush in the fashion of liquid glue. After supergluing the propeller into place and polishing the canopy with Novus 1, this build was finally complete. And that's the end of that build. This is easily one of my favorite kits that I've built and just my favorite finish job so far. It's an excellent kit. The only place I had to use any putty on the entire thing was at the wingtips, and that was pretty much just because of me not cleaning them well enough before I glued the short versions in. I tried a lot of new techniques on this model, from post shading on the control surfaces, which I actually really like, especially on the ailerons. It's a bit too heavy on the elevators, but it looks alright. Using the airbrush to do gun smoke, I think worked well and quickly. I tried using Tamiya's weathering compounds to do all the exhaust coloring. This is actually silver with all of Tamiya's rust colors humped on. I don't think it has enough texture or variance in color, so I don't think I'll do it that way again, but it was an interesting experiment. Yeah, I didn't have to do any puttying anywhere on here, just a little bit of sanding on top of the cowl. The pre-shading with the marbles, I'm finally figuring it out to where you can actually see it in person. I haven't looked at the pictures for this yet, I haven't edited those, so I can't say for sure if you can see them in the photos, but in person you can see all that marbling texture. The only other thing that I wasn't too happy with on the build, all that work I did with the oil filter, not in the kit, the dot filter, it was pretty much wasted. I underestimated just how much a clear coat on top of it would make it just vanish. So next time I'm going to have to go a little bit heavier on that. But other than that, I'm very pleased with this kit, and it's easily one of my favorite things I've built in my whole modeling time up to this point. And it didn't break, it's all good. So thanks for watching, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys next time.